Welcome to Studio RC, an encouragement for your recovery and your faith. We have a special treat this week. We are starting part one of a two-part episode on people, places, and things. A popular topic in meetings, especially for newcomers. And this was previously recorded as one of the RC Online messages. And it was actually about 40 minutes in length, and we cut it into two different parts, and then each part can live by themselves, but they go together nicely as well. And so this episode, we're going to tackle the first half, the part one of people, places, and things, and then next week we will tackle week two. So sit back, relax, and listen to People, Places, and Things, Part 1, and may it be encouragement to your faith and your recovery. God bless and enjoy. All right. Well, my name is Max. I am an alcoholic, and I'm sober tonight only by the grace of God and the fellowship of the literature, the fellowship, the Bible, our faith, all that good stuff truly helps us get and stay sober. So I'm glad for that. So tonight, people, places, and things, a topic that we often will hear early in recovery. I would think most of us are familiar with it, but what it is in addiction recovery, it emphasizes the influence of one's environment and relationships on the recovery process. It refers to social as well as physical environments that can cause cravings or relapse for individuals in recovery. And so areas that, especially in early recovery, would be difficult to re-engage. This might include relationships with other people who drink or use, places associated with drugs or alcohol use, activities that may lead to more substance abuse. In AA's big book, it emphasizes that the individual must examine and often change their social circles and environments as part of their recovery journey, which I think in early recovery, it says in how it works that some of these we balked. And I think that this is one of those things that we may have balked at. And so we might not have wanted to do, like, what do you mean I have to have new friends? And that's not totally what it's saying. But in the beginning, it's important to kind of have some lines in the sand, if you will. Understanding the impact of people, places, and things, it really helps us as individuals recognize those things that could lead to relapse. In the beginning, in our early journey, there needs to be a lot of troubleshooting about kind of what that looks like and how can I avoid putting myself in a position where I am susceptible. The big book says that, there are all these accounts of members who relapsed after visiting places associated with their drinking history. They later learned to avoid these places as a crucial part of their recovery strategy. You don't go to the bar, you don't go to the, your drug dealer, you don't go, where is it that, you drank or used? We'll talk a little bit about, I always love my friends who, they sat in their basement in the chair and drank, or, they were in the garage all winter working on the lawnmower, although the lawnmower still doesn't run, but they've been out there all winter, trying to, figure out a place where you can drink uninterrupted. And part of overcoming people, places, and things is building new healthy relationships with sober individuals that provide encouragement, accountability, and on some level fun. Because I think in early recovery, I wasn't convinced that I could have fun sober. I wasn't sure what that was going to look like. I wasn't sure if that was possible. Meetings, recovery church, create this community that really fosters connections among individuals in recovery. One of the in Proverbs, it tells us in 27:17, iron sharpens iron, and one person sharpens another. One of that, like a in regards to faith, one another, two people in faith have the ability to make each other better, to be stronger in faith. And there are all sorts of two is better than one scriptures and that point to doing it together. In how it works, it talks about we, and this we, you and me, the community, the fellowship, doing things together, we are stronger. Dr. Bob, one of the founders of AA, would start with three questions with his sponsees. And this was basically step one. And he would ask, do you have a problem? Do you want to do something about it? What are you willing to do about it? And his hope was, do you have a problem? Yes. Do you want to do something about it? Yes. And then the third question was really the important question. What are you willing to do? And he was looking for you to say anything. And, you know, that comes very much into people, places, and things. There are certain times or familiar places and regular activities associated with drinking or drug use that was woven closely into just the fabric of our lives. This is part of the anything that Dr. Bob was talking about. And in how it works, it says, if you're willing to go to any length, this is part of the any length. This is the anything. Are you able to avoid certain people, places, and things, even if it's embarrassing? Even if you may feel silly or stupid, like I don't feel comfortable going, are you bold enough to do that initially? You may not feel comfortable going to the wedding that has an open bar, or maybe your plus one becomes your sponsor. Like, are you willing to do the anything when you go back to people, places, and things? Old routines can prove a trap dangerous to our sobriety. If you have a particular routine, sometimes we just instinctively pick up a drink or pick up a drug. Like, that's just what we do in this scenario. And so it's part of the routine. If on the way home you always go by the liquor store or the same bar, that's just part of the routine. And sometimes if you're not careful, a routine, let's say every time you get angry, you go have a shot, or every time you're angry, you smoke a bowl or something. Like, if you're not careful, when that routine starts, or, before you know it, you're like, ooh, I'm right at the door of what I'm trying to avoid. And you're not even thinking about it because it's so part of your routine. We found it useful to look back at the habits surrounding our drinking, like the people, places, and things. And if we change a lot of small things connected with our drinking and drugs, it can be helpful, especially in the beginning. Many used to begin the day with a morning drink. Maybe now start with a coffee in the kitchen. If you had the shakes in the morning and the first thing you had to do was have a drink, maybe you want to change up your routine a little bit. It talks about a change in brands of toothpaste or mouthwash. And mouthwash is an interesting one because we want to be careful with the alcohol content. I never used mouthwash. When I was told mouthwash was like almost like it has a high percentage of alcohol, I was like, oh, really? Now there's non-alcoholic mouthwash out there too. Tom's, I think it is. Doesn't taste very good, but like Listerine's like 40 or 50 proof or something. Like, it's got a lot of alcohol in it. And that might be something that you're like, oh, that reminds me of, or and it, again, we're changing the routine. And the suggestions of maybe a little exercise or a few quiet moments of contemplation to begin the day, just changing up how you do the day. Many of us have learned when we first left the house in the morning, maybe not passing by the familiar watering hole, whether it's on the way to work or on the way home. And each of us can pretty easily spot exactly where our favorite drinking locale was, whether it was at home, whether it was out, whether, whatever that looked like. We know the environment. I joke because I got sober and was in the program at 19. Bars was not a part of my people, place, and things. I didn't drink in bars. Matter of fact, I don't know that maybe that was just not where I drank because I wasn't legal age to drink in a bar. I drank in like the woods, or like a non-lit soccer field or a basement, like that's where I drank. But where you'll know where you drank and where you spent a lot of time. And it's, each of us, we know what days, hours, and occasions have most been associated with our drinking. I don't know about you, but Thursday around 3 o'clock when I was in college was sort of when I really started ramping it up. Like we were going to hit the weekend running. And in high school it was Friday, but in college that bumped up to Thursday as I was drinking more. And but like, yeah, Thursday was the start of the weekend. Woohoo! And I was looking for good 3 or 4 days of tying them on, and then recovering by hopefully Monday morning ish, for class. I did go to a school in Pennsylvania, and at the time, I don't know that if this is still the case, but they had blue laws where they didn't sell alcohol on Sunday, so you had to meter your alcohol a little bit too. We usually ran out, so Sunday was usually not a heavy drinking day because we had already drank it all because we didn't have access to it. So I guess they it proved their point with what they were trying to do. But when you want to not drink, it helps to shake up our routines. Um, Now, one of the things, instead of maybe going to the restaurant or the place where the waiters or the bartenders always knew what you wanted without being told, it may make sense to go to a different place. Now, I have to tell you, I loved and strived. I wanted to be the usual, like now I have to be honest, I never achieved that with alcohol. I have achieved that in a couple other restaurants and locations with smoothie, the usual, like slightly better stuff. But there's nothing better, I don't know, recognition wise, when someone says the usual to me, like that just woo, like I have arrived. They know what I want. And so if you had a place that knew your usual, maybe you want to, like, you don't want them to bring you a martini just because you sat down before you even asked for it, even though that's what you wanted previously. You don't even want to have to deal with that. So maybe you switch up your routine. One of the things that we don't need to do is test our willpower. It seems pretty silly and it just seems unnecessary. Tests will come, but sometimes we're like, I want to prove that I am big and strong. I am going to go to this location. I'm going to go to my favorite place, the bar where I used to always get drunk because I really like their wings. So I'm just going to go for the wings this time. Like we're playing on the train tracks, and now honestly, with DoorDash and everything, you can probably get them delivered to your house without even having to skip out on the wings. But we make excuses sometimes. Like I can go to that keg party. I'm fine. I'm just going to go see my friends. And that puts us in a spot. And the truth is, one of the things it talks about in faith, if we see, like, if we are in or part of sin, it tells us to flee. I think that's pretty good advice when we're around drugs or alcohol. We flee. We don't warm ourselves by the fire and say, I'm going to be okay. I'm just warming my hands. I'm not going to stick my hand in there and get fully burnt. I'm just going to, warm myself up and see how it is. But it's just it's unnecessary. Your tests, they're going to come. They will come. You don't have to go looking for them. Tests and early recovery come. And this probably meant foregoing when we were kind of changing up our routine. at least for a little while, the company of some of our hard drinking friends. If they're true friends, they naturally are glad to see us take care of ourselves, our health, our addiction, and they respect our right to do whatever it is that we feel is best for us. And we've learned, as in addiction and in recovery, to be wary of anyone who persists in urging you to drink. You can have one drink. You can have one. It's not. They don't know what they're talking about. That's not someone you need or want to be around. And they don't understand, and maybe they're not the friend that you thought they were. Those who really love us will encourage our efforts. One of the things is interesting, and I don't want to go too deep into this, but I'm going to scratch the surface. One of the things we've learned in early recovery is even to vary our diet and to include foods not closely associated with alcohol. And there can be some controversy over what kind of foods we eat or don't eat in regards to alcohol. And different people have different takes. Like if you have like chicken franchise cooked in white wine, it all burns off. It does. I never drank white wine, so I don't even know, I don't know if I would know what the taste of white wine was or not. But maybe not eat, the food, or, it depends on, like, are we trying to steal some pleasure from it? Are we trying to taste a little alcohol? Or do we just like something? Now, I have to tell you, desserts are usually a place where if they have alcohol, it's usually not burned off. The big one that, because we live in an area where we have a lot of Italian restaurants. I'm Italian. Like tiramisu is an interesting one. I know a lot of people who love tiramisu, but those lady fingers are dipped in, I think it's brandy, but if it's not brandy, it's something. They're soaked in alcohol and then they're put in the dessert. So it's not like it was cooked off. Like you taste it. I would steer clear. I was fortunate enough that I have a spouse that will be my taster at places like weddings and things. And like the worst is like I don't know if you've ever those cherries, like when we were drinking and they were filled with liqueur, the chocolate covered cherries, and you're like, ooh. The last thing you want to do when you're in recovery is like discover like a liqueur filled cherry, like because you weren't aware. So food's an interesting thing, and that's like that goes right into the do you have alcohol in your house or not? Some people are like, yes, because we have people who come over and drink, and some people, I can't be afraid of it. And then other people will say, if you want to drink and it's not there, you can still get it, but it takes more of an effort. I'm more of initially, I didn't have alcohol around the house. We have some small trace amounts of alcohol because I have an adult who, my spouse drinks. And but I've gotten to the point where it's not a thing. It's like water. It's like milk. It's not a factor. And if it was a factor, I would speak up. Um, Interestingly, early in recovery, suppose we're invited to a party, where drinking might be the chief entertainment of the party, or even a business thing where drinking is the focus. What then? Well, we have for much of our lives been pretty skillful of dreaming up alibis of where we are or where we've been or why we weren't somewhere. And so we can devise a graceful way of saying no, thank you to some of those invitations. I'm not, no, thank you. It's not really, I'm not really open to that. I learned in my early recovery, I was still part of a fraternity, and every fraternity event had alcohol. And so I stopped going. Like I just was like, I got to study tonight, or, I would just come up with something. And, eventually it came to the point where I was like, I can't be a part of this. And they graciously, it was nice enough. They put me as an alumni. So I became alumni status. So I didn't have to go to all the rush events where they were keg parties and stuff like that. but I still did sports with them and things, so we were still friends. So that worked out. I've heard of other relations where that didn't work out as smoothly, but that was definitely a people, place, and thing because I did a lot of drinking at the fraternity house and other things as well. Um, so now, as I talk about people, places, and things, I want to emphasize that that is a temporary solution that in some ways does not address our actual problem. When we are aware of people, places, and things, what it is doing, it is buying time for us to have our spiritual awakening, because our spiritual awakening is what happens when that happens. We've had that we've had that personality change where we have gotten into the state of being recovered, as it is described in the first appendix to the big book. We can be recovered based on a daily maintenance of our spiritual condition, but we can be recovered. When we are recovered, it's a different story. But in the beginning, when we haven't been recovered, when we haven't been delivered, when we haven't been reborn, we might need to be cautious about people, places, and things.